I think by the end of 2023, Sam Bankman-Fried will take a plea deal and will not go to prison because it's crypto, because it is something that this back-asswards country is so bad at regulating and hasn't figured it out even to this day. I do not think the government is effective enough to get somebody on things like wire fraud when it involves cryptocurrency.
Yeah. I don't think you'll go to prison because if you have enough money, you don't go to prison.
Welcome to Visionaries. I'm your host, Jacob Wolf. Happy New Year. We are super excited to be back here with you all, back on our normal podcast schedule. If you're listening to this, you're listening to it on Wednesday or after. And we will be back with regularly scheduled podcasts on Friday this week. I don't know about you, Prem, but I was itching to get back to the podcast later this, like, all the tail end of the holidays. It was nice to have that, like, kind of first week off after Christmas, leading into Christmas. We took it kind of light because Christmas is on a weekend, but then, like, right around, like, New Year's, etc., I was just like, it's time for me to get back on the saddle.
Yeah, I hit, like, I don't know, December 29th. I'm like, I'm bored.
Yeah,
like I'm just so used to thinking about this and being actively doing something at like 11 in the morning. And I just remember sitting there on my computer being like, what do I do?
No, 100%. I feel that too. And if you're new to the show, hello. I know this is going to be going up on YouTube to maybe a few people who have seen some of our other content. Now they're watching this. For my background, really quickly, I'm a former ESPN award-winning investigative journalist who now runs this company that you're watching on this channel, Overcome. We are producing a twice-weekly podcast, Visionaries, which you've probably seen if you are watching this. We have some of the biggest content creators, game developers, people in general entertainment, etc. on this show. Anything that nerdy people like, it's probably on this show. That's kind of the goal. And we do our best to try to cut through the weeds. And so that's what we're doing today. We're going to be back to regularly scheduled interview episodes on Friday. But today, we didn't get to do this last year because we launched in late July. But we wanted to do predictions and what is going to happen.
Hot takes and predictions, baby.
Correct. What's going to happen in 2023. And this time next year, end of the year, we will do an episode looking back on these and saying how bad we got this wrong or not. That's part of the fun. You may disagree with us. And if you do, argue with us in the comments. It's wonderful.
Have fun.
This is all supposed to be, it's supposed to be realistic, but at the same time, some of these things might not happen. That's the beauty of predictions. So I'm really excited to break down some of these. But Prem, do you want to start, or you want a prediction start with a prediction? I've got one I think will get us into a long discussion, but I think
I do too. I have two that I think are things that we're going to end up hitting on regardless. We have one prediction from someone else, and
yes,
I don't know what it is, and I have a feeling two of my things will dovetail nicely into it.
So give us the one that doesn't.
Yeah. Okay, You want the one that doesn't. The one that doesn't, all Activision Blizzard leagues will die a slow and painful death, and we're going to start seeing it happen this year as more people kind of just get tired of it. Get tired of how hollow and like kind of insecure the money seems to be.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I presume I will have some reporting around this. I don't know if they will die necessarily. So because I've reported on these a lot. Like, sort of a lot of the reporting I've heard has always been that these leagues won't change until after the Microsoft acquisition. So if you've read my reporting before on the Jacob Wolf Report, there's about somewhere between $380 to $420 million in debt owed to the Overwatch League, to Activision Blizzard for the Overwatch League and Call of Duty League, that the owners haven't paid because payments have been suspended since 2020. It's not super material for a company as big as Activision Blizzard, but it does help on the balance sheet in terms of this acquisition. Now, actually, I did not have this on my prediction list, but it is something I'm going to be talking about in the newsletter. I don't think the Microsoft Blizzard acquisition is going to go through after all. I actually think it's dead. And let me tell you why. I just want to explain the mechanics.
I want to hear your
of this.
rationale on this. So
the FTC has officially filed a complaint against Microsoft and Activision Blizzard. They did that right before the holiday. This is, I believe, early December.
Yeah.
And the reason I think it won't go through is that they didn't file it in a court. This is not filed in a federal court in California or New York or any places that those two companies operate business. This is filed internally at the FTC, which means that if the FTC arbiters don't rule in the FTC's favor, then it goes back to the commissioner board, which consists of the people who are suing Activision Blizzard and decided to sue them. So this is basically being the judge and the executioner at the same time, and the lawyer representing the opposing side. I think they kill this, and whether or not there's merit to do so, I have a lot of different thoughts about kind of the complaint that was made and the validity of like whether or not it's true that it would hurt the industry and damage players. A lot of their argument was talking about the future. Oh, well, what if they take Call of Duty or Overwatch or any of these other games and they move them only into Game Pass, and now you can only get them on a PC or an Xbox. You can't get them on PlayStation anymore. I have a lot of thoughts about whether that's valid or not. Generally, I tend to think that like the complaint is too broad, but it doesn't matter because of the way that it was filed and the way that this process is going to go. So I think like if it is ruled that way, we're going to be in court for a long time. What I'm curious about is what happens to those leagues while this thing remains being litigated, basically.
So for one, didn't the Brazilian equivalent of the FTC also file a complaint about some country also did have a complaint about this acquisition specifically?
There's been a couple different things. So UK regulators have been probing it. EU regulators, European Union regulators, have also said that they're going to have, I believe, until March to make a decision whether or not they're going to sue for it. There was also some reporting that Jim Ryan, the CEO of PlayStation, went to Brussels, and met with those regulators in, I believe, August or September of last year prior to them making that decision. So there's a lot of other movement. I'm very specifically curious, though. You can kind of work around some of the international pushback. I don't know if you can work around the FTC.
No, I don't think
it would just, I think it will just be a litigation process back and forth that continues. That doesn't address, though, what you're talking about, which is that the leagues themselves have to function. And I don't think anybody's happy functioning in the leagues right now.
Right. I don't think they die this year. Like, I don't think we get to January 1st, 2024, and they're dead, not coming back. But I do think that in the same way in other scenes, like, you can kind of see the death knells. You can see these signs that it's the end, even if no one's really like explicitly saying it. And I have a feeling with things like the Philadelphia team going to South Korea, with the number of teams that from what I've been seeing are seeming to go with like basically throwaway teams, paying minimum contracts, not even intending to compete seriously. Just
correct.
We are obligated to be in this league, so we fielded a team. Okay, there you go. Doing the bare minimum. With all of that, with the massive decrease in viewership of Hearthstone, and I think there was technically increased viewership on Overwatch still year over year.
But it was because of the drops.
Because of the drops.
You removed drops, and for those maybe unfamiliar with what that is, they basically had it enabled that you would get Overwatch 2 merch. Overwatch 2 came out at the tail end of the year for multiplayer only. They did not put out the single player mode. But that you could get in-game items by watching the Overwatch League. And that saw a pretty big boost in viewership. But before that, it was not good. And so the numbers are a little bit misleading.
Yeah. So I have a lot of friends who they just turn it on and leave.
Yeah.
They don't actually
100%.
watch. And so there are a lot of casual players who are like, oh, I like that skin that they're giving away for free for my favorite character. So they're going to turn it on and then go on with their fucking lives. They're going to do whatever they need to do.
Yep.
So I think we get to the end of the year and the general consensus in esports world is that there might be one like swan song season, but other than that, like we're not going to see much of Overwatch League trying to make these big events.
Yeah, it's sad that a league that, you know, got commitments for more than $300 million is in that boat. And I think like that's the most telling part is, and that's not included in Call of Duty League, right? Which is $25 million for the 12. It's just honestly, the leagues are pathetic. I've said it for a long time. They outshot their coverage. Even back then, when all the hype around esports, all the investment craze, etc., they were outpricing Riot. And I think a lot of people feel different ways about the LCS right now and the LEC and like whether those will even work long term. But at least like, you know, on a $10 million or a $13 million investment, you can like kind of, you know, if things went well for just a few years there, like things seemed like they're going well, that happens. But like these 20, 25, 30, 35, like these are always fucking insane. None of these numbers ever made sense. And I used to get a lot of shit for saying that from like people on the Activision Blizzard side of the fence. And it's like, all that I have to say is like, I hope you got enough of your money. Like I mean, whatever.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The initial LCS franchising buy-in was 20 million?
No. It was 10. It was 10. It was 10 if you already had a team in the league, meaning like pre-franchising. It was 13
so like
if you
TSM,
were new.
CLG,
so like,
etc.
So like the Warriors and some of the others paid like 13. That was what they were on the hook for.
That's So I think 35 is nuts. 13 seems like criminally low.
It was criminally low. It was supposed to be.
Oh my
god!
Was I was thinking
they could have gotten so much more, but it was supposed to be low for the sense of like, you know, because Riot wasn't in it for the bag, right? Like they were here to, and they've changed. Look at Valorant. Valorant's so much different of an ecosystem for a reason. It's because like, you know, they're not doing all the buy-ins and everything because they don't think it's sustainable anymore. Even they've corrected their model. Whereas, you know, Overwatch League and Call of Duty League would never tell you that. So they're going to hand it down. But moving on to the next prediction, I have one, and I don't think we share this one, but I think that this year YouTube will join Twitch in cutting creator spending. I don't mean by the payouts.
Okay.
I don't mean by the payouts. I don't think that YouTube is going to cut down to like 50-50. I don't think they need to. YouTube is such a sustainable product in so many other ways other than live, which is what they're paying most of these creators for. However, I think it's become abundantly clear, not just because of the economy, but in general, what people use YouTube for. And when I say people, I very specifically mean the likes of Courage and drlupo and some of the others who took the bag and don't do nearly as much content anymore. They took the bag and stopped producing. And I understand the Twitch demand has always been unrealistic. Twitch says that streamers, you know, they have these very high viewer hours in their contracts. They've tried more recently to launch incentives where if you do the crazy viewer hours, you get paid additional money for partners that aren't set in stone. But we've seen a very huge reduction from these like private contracts or whatever, you know, these like separate contracts, special contracts issued by Twitch to creators from about 20% to 5% over the past 2 years, according to some of the reporting that other people have done. And I think now, at least in the case of YouTube, YouTube is going to join that boat. I think that there are some creators they have made very good bang for their buck on, people like Ludwig, etc., who have very much had a vision and plan to take this money and use it this way, that helps YouTube, events, etc., that, you know, do very well in viewership. But I think that a lot of creators, the early creators on the platform, took YouTube as, I got my bag, now I don't have to stream as much. We're going to see more ninjas in 2023 than we are exclusive streamers to either platform. We're going to see the co-streaming because the platform deals are starting to go away for a lot of
I think I only partially agree. So I think they will cut their spend. Kind of in totality, they will have reduced their spend. But I do think they will kind of learn from, I don't want to necessarily call it a mistake, but really what is for them an experiment. Like I think they'll do more vetting of finding people who really can bring the type of value that someone like Ludwig brings to the whole platform, and they will find 2 to 3 of those, and that's it.
Yeah,
you
that's
might
fair.
see a handful of creators that will sign on, do exclusivity, but like realistically, the expectation is low for them to be, shifting the paradigm of the content being made on the platform. I think they specifically look for 2 to 3 more people who can do full scale, start to finish productions that are not just their stream, not just the content from their stream, and they will pay them fucking handsomely. Those 2 to 3 people are going to make absolute insane bank, because YouTube has done an immense amount of research vetting them and making it clear that the goal is to bring them to do the live streaming as they would normally do, but also support them in building out these larger events, in finding ways to execute on things that most creators just can't do unless they have a lot of support staff.
Well, so I ask you though, who are those creators? You
I
had
have
to
no
pin
idea.
the tail on the dog here.
I am trying to, like, I could see an argument being made for if there was a content that could work with it, I could see an argument being made for offline TV as a whole.
Yep.
Where offline TV gets paid out $150 million or something, spread across the entire roster, and they are streaming on the platform, obviously making content still, but YouTube provides them the resources to do like an offline TV live show once a month or something. They do, some activations here and there. I think that's honestly as close as I can get. I could see an argument being made for Hassan. But I think it would be tricky.
It would have
Hassan's
to be a lot of
harder.
money. He just ended, if I'm not mistaken, it's, I believe him and Asmongold are 1 and 2 at the end of the year in Twitch watch hours, and I believe he's number 1. He's definitely those are the top 2. I know they are for sure. I don't know in which order they are. The interesting thing about Hassan in particular is that this is anecdotal assumption. I actually think more people probably consume his content by raw, unique viewers on YouTube than they do on Twitch.
Definitely.
And I think it's because the type of content he does, political content, etc., is something that other places, news channels, etc., already do on YouTube. So he's kind of getting double funnel. He's getting like the hardcore sort of left-leaning liberal audience, etc., that comes to him generally, like the leftist audience that comes to him generally, who are fans of Hassan. But he's also getting some of the political cake too that doesn't exist on Twitch.
I mean, you're missing the third segment of that, which is, I think, just as big. It's all the people who want to see like kind of his charisma as he reacts to things that are happening on the internet.
Yeah.
Like I consume a ton of Hassan content at this point. Very little of it is the political content. But when there's
it's a mix of happenings, him and Charlie Moist Critical are the best at this in terms of that quick turnaround. But he's way more charismatic than Charlie. No offense, Charlie.
I love Charlie.
Charlie's great. Hassan called him the other day Florida Jesus, which I think we can all appreciate.
I mean, you should. I have not been able to find this chart for since the first time I saw it. There's a chart of the viewership hours on the top 10 YouTubers in the very specific variety content that Charlie does, the kind of commentary content. And in any way that you represent that graph, you just can't include Charlie. Because Charlie's, the amount of content that he puts out and the amount of people who watch it the day of dwarfs everyone so much that you can't even see 2 through 10.
Yeah.
They're just blips. And so in terms of pure numbers, I could see Charlie being someone that would be an interesting exclusive, but I also don't think he is able to do the events the way that someone like Ludwig or an offline TV could do. I don't think the activations work as well.
Here's one for you. Kai Cenat. And he's the most subscribed to streamer on Twitch. Obviously, he makes pretty good money. Granted, that spend obviously is being cut this summer when it goes down to 50-50. I actually don't know. Kai is new enough, young enough, that I don't even know if he even got, speculating here, I don't know if he even got a 70-30 or an 80-20 deal. I actually think he started 50-50 because he's relatively...
I mean, he's streaming...
not been doing this all that long, yeah.
He started streaming this summer.
Yeah. He's become in the extremely successful. I think his aspirations are similar, though. If you look at the type of content he does, maybe not events, maybe other things that he wants to do, live activations, etc. But of all of the streamers who, are in that upper echelon, he excites me the most because I think the creativity we've not seen anywhere near the peak of it. Like he's just now starting to get into his creative arc. He's building out a business around him, similar to Ludwig and the others, right? Like he has Amp, who I happen to know the CEO of from the guy previously worked at the Toronto Raptors, and has sort of sports business development background. And I think that Kai could be really, really interesting. I think the jury's out on that one. I feel like if Twitch doesn't sign Kai to a major deal, then they're totally missing out. He is clearly the highest revenue driver on the platform. Not necessarily by watch hours, but ads on Twitch are so low CPM, it doesn't matter. Subscribers is the more valuable number, and he is the most subscribed to Twitch.
I could definitely see activations working with him, and I think that if Twitch did an exclusivity with contract with him, I think they would squander the potential for what Kai Cenat can bring. I think they'd squander it completely. Like, tell me that you wouldn't have a dope ass time at like a club show that is curated by Kai and that group. Every artist there is going to go hard as hell.
Yep.
That show's going to be fucking awesome. And I know Twitch isn't going to do that.
Correct. They're not. Yeah.
Twitch will do that one time at TwitchCon. It'll be like a deeply kind of neutered event because it's Twitch hosting their own event, and it'll feel like a disappointment. If YouTube signed him, those events would go hard, and YouTube would very easily be able to make it happen for them.
100%. Yeah, they're way more. I think the difference between YouTube and Twitch more broadly is that YouTube, because they started broadly, their expertise has always been broad, right? They know how to do a bunch of other things than just gaming. Whereas Twitch is kind of going the inverse. Yes, they started broad with Justin TV, but the core team of Twitch were very gaming specific, gaming focused people who are now learning the opposite way and hiring the opposite way. They're hiring non-gaming folks. And so they're slowly educating themselves about, call it lifestyle content, whatever it may be, the things where the game is not on the screen. And you've seen this issue with their moderation and everything else as well, that they've struggled to moderate things that aren't games. And so they're slowly having to educate themselves, whereas YouTube's competitive advantage is YouTube knows about a lot of different industries, basically. They know the whole broad spectrum because it's been there on YouTube from the beginning.
I mean, not just that, they've done everything. Like, correct. They have educational content on the platform that is segregated and easy to find. They used to have a lot of original content that they were making for YouTube TV. They are very experienced when it comes to building new things and optimizing just enough that it works, and in some cases so much that it explodes.
I mean, look at Shorts as a good example of that, right? Yeah. Shorts is actually like, it's the quote unquote TikTok competitor, but I don't think it is by any means, at least. I find that like what works on TikTok is cute or comical content. And like there are other things that work, but when we're talking like mass scale, it's either because it's funny or it's really fucking cute, right? Like animals are sort of, the kings of TikTok. I feel actually like YouTube has been way more successful with educational content on Shorts, that things 100%. That are different, more serious, etc. Maybe that's just my like anecdotal, my TikTok algorithm. If you disagree with me, feel free to reach out to us. But nonetheless, I think that they tried to make something to compete with TikTok, but it actually has its own unique flavor and variety is the point I'm making.
I mean, I think there's some like platform media theory there that I could get into. The gist of it is that TikTok, that the cute and fun content was the core of the content at the onset. It's what made it big, and so it kind of snowballs. But with YouTube, it's all there already. And
Correct.
So like I get a lot of funny, cute content on YouTube shorts, but I also get a ton of like shorts about how to improve this recipe or how to build this small optimizing thing in your life. Like, it's by nature of the content that's already on YouTube, the content that is on shorts is going to be more diverse.
Yep, 100%. We do have one guest prediction, which is from Brandon Freytag, previous guest of the show. If you're unfamiliar with Brandon, he is a co-founder of Loaded, still works there as well. They are the creator agency that worked with Ninja to get big. They worked with Ludwig on his platform deal to YouTube. They currently rep Cutie Cinderella, drlupo, Courage, a bunch of others. They've had quite the roster of people go through them. Brandon sent us in a short prediction, so we are going to play that now and then give our reactions to it.
My big prediction this year is going to be related to diversification. I think you're going to see a lot of esports teams, creators, companies continue to diversify what they're doing in the space. So 100 Thieves is an example of an esports team that's building keyboards and merchandise and an energy drink. I think you're going to see more of that with esports teams and trying to find ways to continue to push their business forward. I think you'll see creators continue to diversify the content that they're putting out on different platforms. I think they'll look at ways to monetize that content differently with their audience and not be beholden to one platform. So I think this year, especially in a down market, you're going to see people trying to find clever ways or interesting ways to continue to build out their businesses.
I feel like we talked about this a little bit in 2022 as well. Sort of the esports team is no longer an esports team. There was a paragraph in the Forbes piece most recently about FaZe Clan that talked about this a little bit too, and the fact that they're having to diversify their business. It's no longer just about competitive, whatever. And we have another clip to play, although not sent in to us, from Ludwig's Mogul Mail first video of the year, which actually talks about a little bit about this too. So we're going to play this too, and then we will dive into the topic more broadly.
Happy New Year. New year means new goals, and maybe one of your goals this year is to burn as much money as possible. And I have a great solution for you. It's called Esports. If you don't know, pretty much every single esports organization is vastly overvalued because they're all subsidized by venture capitalist groups that are probably going to get fed up in 3 to 5 years when none of them are profitable, or crypto exchanges. And we know what's happening with crypto exchanges. Let's just take a look at the Forbes top 10 most valuable esports companies. At the top, you can see TSM, 100 Thieves, Liquid, and FaZe Clan. Well, let's just take a look at TSM. How are they doing? Oh, they had a deal with FTX that got suspended. It was worth $210 million. Okay, that's all right. Well, how about 100 Thieves? They laid off a bunch of people. Okay, well, you got to reduce overheads sometimes. Okay, what about Liquid? Oh, a deal with Coinbase for 4 years. Surely that will last. And finally, FaZe Clan. Okay, publicly traded company valued at 134 million. Wait, 400 million, 100. Okay, that dropped. Oh, that dropped really fast. Okay, well, that's. Look, not me just trying to make fun of esports orgs, because I like esports, and I like anyone who takes an attempt at making it work. It just doesn't seem like the economics of it match the ambitions of a lot of the people inside of the sphere. What does work, however? Content teams, influencers, signing content creators, which a lot of esports orgs do, and that seems to be the profitable part of their business, and it's also what some content teams do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely have sort of one of these as a prediction. I think we're going to see a lot of the like low B and C tier teams just stop being able to operate.
I think dissolve or merger and acquisition. Yeah, this is not on my prediction list, but I think like that's the trend. How many of them will we see merge together because they have to survive?
Right. No, I think we're going to see, especially in some of the smaller communities where there's like a lot of these kind of sort of ragtag teams that they kind of scrape together the money to send a player to an event every once in a while. I think those kind of things, it just stops being really feasible. I also, the other prediction I had was that a lot of like esports as a whole is going to lose a ton of money. Like we've already lost hundreds of millions of dollars. And yet I think there's still hundreds of millions more.
Yeah, I agree. And I think honestly, it's funny that Ludwig's the one saying that. I had a conversation with a friend this past weekend about this. And sort of my take is that the esports teams, the esports activations, etc., the ones that will be meaningful in viewership long term will be the ones built by creators. So things like, Moist Esports is a very small thing in sort of Moist Critical Charlie's sort of portfolio at the moment. He just launched a talent group, a bunch of other things, etc. But I think things like the Smash Invitational, or that's the Smash Scuffed World Tour, the makeup event that Ludwig ran a few weeks ago, I think that that's what we're going to see moving forward. Maybe not for the publisher-ran esports leagues, Riot, Activision Blizzard, League of Legends, Valorant, etc., but certainly for everything else. I don't see a world where, like you said, any of these sort of smaller, more niche esports continue to be successful without the help of creators. And I think that solely comes down to that they want to feel connected. The audience wants to feel connected. The audience wants to feel like, they clinched a charisma. This is not new. This is a consumer behavior for forever. And so when you have like esports players who don't get it, who aren't charismatic, they're just good at a video game, like that's not something you sort of cling to. And that's the user behavior we've been saying the past couple of years, I think.
And the issue with that is that the creators who are going to give you those valuable activations, they know they can do it. They know their value, and they will look to go to those higher value companies, those A and B tier companies, the TSM, C9, Liquid, whatever, because that's the place that they'll get the most money, but they'll also get definitely the most support. Like if you send one of those to, like, I don't know, Purple Cow Esports, some esports team in Wisconsin that has like 4 employees and an operating annual cost of like maybe $100,000. Yeah, they're not going to get a lot, but they're going to look for teams that can pay out, that can, make it worth their time. And so as much as the way that those small teams survive is personalities, I don't think those teams get those personalities.
I don't think so either, because the personalities don't need them. And I think to Brandon's point about sort of the diversification of business and what verticals they're in, I don't think it's working. Can I be honest for a second? I don't think anything about High Ground or Juvie is a success when I look at 100 Thieves. And 100 Thieves is the best at doing this. Yeah. Their merchandise arm is bigger than others, but like Juvie kind of seems like it fell on its face. Like they had a bunch of free marketing because they were sending cans to big influencers who just like mentioned it without pay. Then they had the ones that they actually signed, people like Tarek, who's in an endorsement deal. But like at the same time, like I don't think that's making more people buy keyboards or keyboards or energy drinks, and it's certainly not making them more relevant than the sort of people in those already very packed categories. You think you're going to go up against like HyperX and Corsair and their marketing budget? No. And I understand maybe you're targeting the more, you want to do the collaborations, you want to target the more niche community, but there's no scale there. I'll be curious to kind of see what the Project X, the 100 Thieves video game is like. I know we're both skeptical of it, but it's one of the few things that at least like interestingly it's different, right? Like video games can have their moments. It's hard though with a keyboard and energy drink.
I think 100 Thieves has done too much too fast. Like, do you remember how good the 100 Thieves camp merchandise was?
Yep.
From 2018? That stuff was bomb. 100 Thieves was the king of doing really high quality merchandise drops on a pretty sporadic schedule. That's not a bad thing to do. And if I think that 100 Thieves has spread themselves too thin, they're trying to do too many things, and they really would have been benefited by doing more of what they have been extremely successful at. Keep doing
Agreed.
the fashion. Keep being a streetwear company. Keep being like less of a gaming company and more of a lifestyle company.
Yeah, they're like the more wholesome FaZe Clan, but the what made them popular is not the signings, it's the owner in Nate Shot, and then it was the signings, right? And they got people involved like Valkyrie and Courage and others. I don't know. I'm just very skeptical of the diversification working. I do think something like TSM, despite the crypto deal being a huge hit to their revenue, the loss of the crypto deal around FTX, but I do think that what they're doing in technology, Blitz app, Dino, etc., will continue to be successful. But they're really kind of the only one doing that. Going down that Forbes list Ludwig showed, it's like Team Liquid is kind of pushing more into media. They're doing media production work, etc., for other people. They're producing events, both their own and all Race the World First that was pretty recently. And also, though, they're like vying for these contract deals for places like Riot, etc., who are cutting their spending. And so therefore they're outsourcing it. So they're not having internal employees put together all these like content edits for things like Wild Rift and Valorant and other things. They've outsourced a lot of that. And Liquid's one of those companies, and they're going like, hey, we have a really top to bottom good media production company. Why don't we produce that for you? Not the events, but the sort of the shoulder content around it, etc. So, but I mean, that also doesn't seem sustainable. Not at the scale. I think the biggest problem with esports, we've said this before on this show, is that the expectations, and Ludwig alluded to this, the expectations versus the reality could not be further apart. It's okay to be a media production company. It's okay to have like a niche keyboard and energy drink, if that's what your evaluation says it is. That's not what your evaluation says it is when you're saying you're worth $400 million. I'm sorry, it's not. Like you were saying you're something else.
As much as I think you are right that the diversification in esports companies isn't necessarily going to solve the problems. I do think that companies should be willing to do a new thing every once in a while. I think that it's safe to build up your fan base, build up what's stable, build up what what works, how to do it well. Think teams like C9, TSM, Liquid, they did that for years. They built good teams, they built good media around it. They promoted their players so that they had big fan bases, and they've become these teams that are kind of household names in esports. Adding the merchandise is great. Once you've gotten stable on the merchandise, and I think C9 is there now. I think C9 is actually doing this basically the best. They've streamlined that they make good merchandise. They drop it, I think, twice a year. And every once in a while they do something else. It's never something they're trying to make a part of their business. They do something for a little bit and then they leave it. If it succeeds, above expectations, awesome. That's fantastic. And they should continue to do it. But a lot of these companies are putting their foot into this pool that they're not ready to be fully in, and then immediately fucking jumping in. They're like, it's cold, go in. Like, God. We don't need another energy drink.
No, we don't.
Like, I think okay. So with Juvie specifically, it's dumb as dirt. You know why? Because we already have Red Bull and Monster, who have basically total control of the entire industry when it comes to sponsorships associated with energy drinks. No one is going to go to Nadeshot and ask him to provide enough energy drinks for the entire fucking event, because he can't do it. Red Bull can. Monster can. They've been in the industry for over a decade. Red Bull has been doing activations in gaming for nearly 20 goddamn years.
Yep. And they had the brand recognition. I mean, the other thing that I've heard at least is that Juvie sale, like from my own reporting and talking to people, is Juvie sales are not nearly as good as they were expected to be. But getting access to them is hard. I don't know about you. I never want to buy a food product from a website, ever. I will buy it from like an Instacart or one of the delivery services. I know they're on GoPuff. Granted, GoPuff's not nearly as big as Instacart or like DoorDash or any of the others of that like. I'll buy from those. I'm very hesitant, and I think the only time I've ever done it when I bought a food product from a website was Magic Spoon. That's it.
Yep.
And the rest, I am extremely hesitant. Coffee, I'm fine. When it's something like that that's non-perishable, but it's an energy drink, I'm just like, I don't know if I want to do that, man. Like, I can just go to Walgreens or like 7-Eleven and like,
Yeah, I was gonna say
buy a Red Bull
Walgreens
or a Monster
go to the gas
or
station.
a Monster.
Like,
I'm just thinking about what's around me, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, I can go to the 7-Eleven up the street and get like a Monster or a Red Bull or something else. Like, it's
because I don't want to just trash on Nate Shot and not give him at least a benefit of the doubt. If he had made this drink, and if memory serves, like the real appeal of the drink is that it's not as sugary as your average energy drink. It's like a healthier option if memory serves.
sure.
If he had set up such that he could have done like LA, Chicago, Atlanta, and Miami or New York as cities where in a store in those places, like
Should have
one
done a
chain in
retail
those
deal.
cities.
I think it's really that simple. You should have done a retail deal. There isn't one.
Yeah.
GoPuff is their deal. GoPuff is the thing. They should have done a retail deal with 7-Eleven or somewhere like a big retail chain. You know?
It's silly. Like,
because then you would have gotten the fans then you would have gotten sort of the fans of the thing that had nothing to do with Nate Shot or gaming, right? You're marketing to this niche audience in a competitive market, like you said, that they're already used to two very specific things, Red Bull and Monster, who are extremely reputable, right? If you do it retail, do a deal with Whole Foods or something, and people start picking it off the shelves to take home with them, and they like it, and I'm not shitting on the product itself. I'm just shitting on the execution of, how it was rolled out, basically, and the ability to sell it. See, that's different. That's different because then you'll get like a lot of those people who are into it that have nothing to do with gaming. I mean, we know of a couple of brands that we've heard of that like. I can't say who because these are off the record discussions, but like we know a couple of brands that were in this marketed in the similar vein, that sort of like health lifestyle type thing, and like their customers are like, they thought they were gonna get like with diabetics or like with people who are sort of health conscious, etc. No, their customers are like 50, 60-year-old men, like because they Facebook marketing, whatever it may be, right? They figured it out. And I think that's the one thing Juvie hasn't done. I don't think anybody over the age of 35 has heard of Juvie before.
That's another little bit that I think is important. Twitch is a bad marketing tool. Stop fucking using it. Stop making Twitch where you make all of your ads. Put them somewhere else. You will never. It doesn't matter what you have, how much it costs. If you do all of your marketing on Twitch and Twitter, it's going to fucking fail.
Correct. Agreed.
Ugh.
Did you have any other predictions? I know we kind of covered both your things, I think, there at the end.
Nope, that's it.
Because I have two. I have one here. I don't want to make this go super long. I have one here, and I have one that's completely unrelated. So I'll talk about the one that's sort of related to this. I think by the end of 2023, FaZe will either go private, be acquired, or have to find some alternative means of financing.
Oh,
I think that the market for FaZe Clan is fucking abysmal. Their stock is below $2. It is awful. It is bad. They are worth a fraction of what they thought they would be. And here's the fucking clue here. A bunch of people didn't take their fucking warrants and convert them into actual stock. A bunch of people said, no, I don't want stock in that shit. And then also they had issues with their pipe, the funding to get them SPAC'd in the first place. And the revenues are not the same as they will be. We've seen like FaZe Rain, one of their co-founders, come out and talk about how like the suits don't care about the people that built the brand. Like this is the most predictable shit, but like going public was a terrible idea. Terrible idea. But you know why it was a terrible idea? Because they couldn't get the private financing as well. It's why they did it.
You know why it was a terrible idea? It's because FaZe Clan's entire fandom is under the age of 18. Like, let's be very real about this. FaZe Clan does not appeal to adults. So why the fuck would they make something that is exclusively accessible by adults?
Yeah, it's true.
Like,
how many people, by the way, you think like try to download Robinhood and buy those warrants? Like the fanboys on Twitter.
Oh my God.
And then they couldn't.
Sure,
and then they couldn't. Yeah.
I'm sure there were so many teenagers who were downloading Robinhood and were like, Mom, I can't buy stocks.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
It's so
and it's bad for the rest of the industry because they're like kind of held up as the, you know, like sort of this is the one, like, and they're not. They just aren't. Like, and I don't think any team in the industry should be doing that shit. Like, you know, sort of Rogue also via a merger with Infinite Reality is going public, and it's like that's also a fucking terrible idea.
That was bad.
None of these are bad. Or
Who's
all
the
these
other
are
one?
bad. Sorry.
The company that owned Upcomer.
Enthusiast Gaming.
Also
a terrible stock.
Terrible stock.
Stop going public. Esports,
Like,
gaming companies, etc.
Gaming isn't. I think that down the road, gaming will be. I think that gaming
video games are gaming entertainment, different story. We're not there yet.
Right. And I think that the ability to have some sort of stake in your favorite team is coming eventually. But I think it goes the way of the Packers.
Yeah.
I think that's if a team wants to do this, they're gonna have to go the way of the Packers, where like
do it via fucking WeFund or Republic or something.
Right.
Like, but you know that obviously like certain investors think certain ways about those things, and it's like an admission to failure. Like if that's really what you want is like shared ownership, then do it that way. Don't do it via IPO. IPO, bad idea. Bad idea.
Yeah. I think if FaZe had done something where they could, a WeFunder or something, I do think that there would have been kids who were able to convince their parents to put $100 up.
Sure. Yeah.
Like
that
I think that makes so much more sense when your entire business is creating a fandom. You're not making a product. You're not selling something that you can say, this is the value of this thing of each individual unit. This is how many we sell. So this is our profit margin every year. You're creating hype around a group.
Yes.
Hype around people. And if you're going to do that, that's great. Target the fans. Focus on the fans. That's the only way you're going to make this work.
Yep. No, I think we've beat that horse as much as we can beat it. And so we'll end on the last one. This is the last one for me. Maybe the most spicy one in this entire one. I think by the end of 2023, Sam Bankman-Fried will take a plea deal and will not go to prison.
Yeah, I mean,
for those unfamiliar, let's give the background here.
Yeah.
Sam Bankman-Fried, he's the founder of FTX. It's come out over the past couple of months. I don't know how you've missed this. It's kind of one of the biggest stories in all of finances, is that he took a bunch of the money that was customers' money, moved it to a hedge fund, Alameda Research, that he also was the owner of, and played with the money, whether that be political donations, whether that be real estate investments, a bunch of other things that he used the money for. He basically stole customer money. Like, that is the most simple way to put it. However, because it's crypto, because it is something that this back-asswards country is so bad at regulating and hasn't figured it out even to this day. And you know that because the biggest crypto sort of like, punishment is Kim Kardashian for a promotion, which is like a age-old no promotional disclosure. That's something they get people on all the time. They've gotten people in gaming for that one too. When that's the biggest punishment, I very much doubt them being able to prosecute him super effectively, at least enough to get him on all, I believe, 8 counts that he's been charged for. I think he'll plea out to some of them. I think they'll drop some others. I don't think he'll go to prison.
Yeah, no, I don't think you'll go to prison, because if you have enough money, you don't go to prison. Like,
I don't even think it's that. I think it's about who wants your head, right? So you look at let's do some comparative analysis here. Let's look at Elizabeth Holmes, the founder of Theranos. She is going to prison because a bunch of the rich people that she scammed, they aren't the some of them are the Silicon Valley types. Most of them are not, actually. They are the ex-government types who are embarrassed and look bad, and they are okay with being embarrassed and looking bad, right? So they put her head on the block. we can also have a bigger discussion because I think it's extremely unfair that she's in prison or going to prison and Adam Newman isn't, who I was about to bring up. But, the people that she scammed out of money are not afraid of being embarrassed, right? They're okay with being embarrassed if it is for putting her behind bars, which they did. In the case of Adam Newman's out there raising money like fucking crazy.
He's still raising literal millions of dollars.
We live from like Andreessen Horowitz and others too, like major investment firms. And I think part of the reason that happened is because the people that invested in WeWork, especially some of the other people at SoftBank in Japan, etc., they don't like looking like they're embarrassed. So to testify against him, to admit that you were fooled by, basically a con artist, is something they do not want to do. And so I think it's a totally different situation. I think that the people that invest in FTX, the biggest supporters of FTX, are afraid of the same thing. They are also afraid of being embarrassed because they're Silicon Valley investor types, and they are going to look bad for being attached to this. So they're not going to push the chips. It will be on the government to push the chips. I do not think the government is effective enough to get somebody on things like wire fraud when it involves cryptocurrency.
Yeah. No, I hate it.
I hate it too. He should be behind bars.
I don't have a lot to add just because it's just like, this is all honestly really depressing because he fucked up. He fucked up bad.
Unequivocally, yeah.
And it impacted a lot of people.
Correct.
And he's probably not gonna. He's gonna get like a slap on the wrist, a fine. Like, I don't know. He might have to.
He'll be booked.
Do some.
He'll do jail. Maybe jail. He was in jail for a little bit. He's out on bond now on house arrest in California. But he may do some jail. But I don't think he'll do prison. I don't think we're seeing this guy. I think the number is in the hundreds of years of things if he was convicted on all 8 counts. I don't think we're seeing any of it. He'll get some of the treatment of like, you can't have a role in like a financial institution that is certified by the FDIC or whatever. Like he'll get some of that stuff, but like that's meaningless. He doesn't need it. Like he already made a decent amount of money, and they didn't seize all that. So
yeah, I think the most that he gets is like 8 to 10 years of prison time, and that's a fraction of what it could.
I don't even think it's that. Don't even think it's that. I think it's nothing, and if it is something, it's very small. 36 months. I'll put a number to it. I think it's 3 years or less. If he gets it at all, and I don't think he gets it at all. So he can go back to playing League of Legends and trying to raise.
Bad.
Yeah. He was. I'm pretty sure he was bronze. Yeah, he was
bronze with over 1,000 games played.
Yeah, he was playing all the fucking time and was still bad at League of Legends. Don't be like Sam Bankman-Fried, people. Come on. Yeah, agreed. I think, too, the other thing that's really telling to me... Well, I guess the $1 million question I want to know is, does he try again? Does he try to raise more money again and try something else?
Yes, but I think the try something else is like a radical pivot.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
I think
it's not like Adam Newman where he does like the "We Live" with a different name kind of thing, right? Like the sort of like the kibbutz, like the group housing crap. Yeah,
I think he does, but like I think either A, it's all very kind of shadowy and done privately, or B, he falls on his face.
Yeah,
like I think it's one of the two, and hopefully it's the latter.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how. I'm very pessimistic. I hope he gets lots of jail time, lots of it. Hope he goes to prison for a decade, like you said, because I think it's important to make an example here. He stole the customer's money. He's not sorry either. He's like, oh, I made a mistake. Yeah, whatever. Fuck you. He doesn't care. I didn't lose any money in FTX, and I still feel for all the people that did. And so I'm just very pessimistic about the country being sort of up on crypto enough to get him. And even if the prosecutors are really bright, which they are, I believe it's Southern District in New York, and Southern District in New York are very, very smart people. They've done a lot of stuff. Like every time it seems like they have a slam dunk case, it's never a slam dunk case. Like Alan Weisselberg, the Trump CFO, is also just sort of like floating around like, hey man, it's like, nah, you like definitely lied on your taxes. You definitely did all these other things, and like you get nothing. So not very optimistic about our judicial system and by any means.
Yeah. I got so little to add to this. I hate it. I just hate it so much because it always happens, and every time it's like, you guys literally stole hundreds of millions of dollars, and the people you stole from, they got pennies back.
Correct.
Like, I was in the Wells Fargo settlement. It was when I was like a sophomore in college, and I lost like $2,000 from Wells Fargo, just like refusing to close accounts and then charging me because of like account minimums that I'm just like, but that account shouldn't exist. I've asked for it to be canceled.
You've closed it, yeah.
I've closed it countless times.
And also got settled with.
And it was like, I got settled for like $3.
Yep.
I'm just like, how does that make sense? How are they not responsible for this?
Yep. It's sad reality, but that's going to be it for our show. We'll end here. We will be back on Friday with a normal interview episode. If you made it all this far too, please subscribe and click the bell below. We appreciate you being here. We are super, super excited. We had a huge holiday bump. We are so excited about 2023. A lot of good stuff in the pipe for us to, not just Visionaries either, which more things we'll talk about later. But thank you all so much for listening to the show. We will be back on Friday, as I mentioned. Special thanks to, Prem is here. Prem for working on the show, and Sammy Daig as well. And we will see you on Friday. Happy New Year again, everyone. Thank you so much.
Toodles, y'all.
Thanks for watching Visionaries on YouTube. For more content, please subscribe to the Overcome channel.